call this work session of the Cleveland Heights University Heights Board of Education to order. Scott, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Here.
Mr. Hines.
Here.
Ms. Serini.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
We essentially have three things in our agenda this evening. The first is our consent agenda, where we have an approval for retirement, new appointments, and change of status. These are documents that were shared to us with us in advance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any questions, thoughts, discussions? Just pretty simple. Call the roll.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries. The work session, there's two major agenda items: the MSAN Student Action Plan presentation and the Heights Middle School discussion. We're starting with the MSAN. Let's get going. And see what
All
this
right,
is
good
about.
evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I know you guys are so excited. Look at all of these people in the room here tonight to hear you talk about your student plans. I am so excited to talk about this tonight with the board. Again, we look at strategic plan goal 2, educational approach, equity, empowerment, and opportunities. So we wanted to make sure that our students always had great opportunities. And this year, this school year, we afforded them the opportunity to lead a national conference. So our students from Heights High facilitated the MSAN Student Conference last October. So part of that work is they have to come up with a student plan. And I wanted them to come to the board tonight to present that plan to the Board of Education. And so excited that we have teachers from across the district that are here tonight to support the equity work, to hear your plans, and hopefully some of this work will transition to what's happening in our school building. So throughout the district. So thank you, students. Thank you to our advisors who are here. And I think at this time I'll turn it over to, is that Odesha? I'm turning it to, or to Sean Washington and Nate. Who am I turning it over to?
We were turning it over to the kids.
I'm turning it over to the students. Okay, thank you. Who's going to introduce our students? Is it going to Jalen? Or Jalen, you taking the lead?
Yep. We're all
Okay.
set.
Thank you, Jalen.
I'll introduce our students.
Thank you.
We have Jalen Coleman, who is a senior. Josephine Johnson, who is also a senior. Delia Gray, who is a sophomore. Dash Chesney, who is a senior. Christine Roberts, who is a senior. Taylor Cody, who is a freshman. Taylor Thomas, who is a junior. Jada Streifel, who is a sophomore. We have Demaria Loretz, who is a sophomore. We also have Micaiah Truitt, who is a senior. Hassan Lewis Majid, who is a senior. And Issa Augustine Glave, who is a sophomore. Did I miss anybody? Perfect. And now it's all about the students.
Okay.
All right, so our advisors are Mrs. Sean Washington, who's an avid teacher at Heights and also an MSAN advisor. Odesha Blue, who is a Cleveland Heights High School AP bio teacher and also an advisor in MSAN. Mr. Nate Williams, who's also a teacher at Heights and an MSAN advisor. The middle school team consists of Mrs. Zakia Bergen, Heights Middle School teacher and MSAN advisor. Mrs. Deborah Oden, Heights Middle School teacher and MSAN advisor. Ms. Deborah Frost, and Mrs. Manana Robinson. All right, so who are we? We are a national coalition, a multiracial coalition that consists of about 33,000 students all across the U.S. What we do basically is attempt to or work to close the achievement gap or any other gaps that are placed in the way of students who are considered to be the minority in these school districts. one of the things, this is a map of it's a broad map of where we are located all over the United States. There are many schools in several of these states. There's not only one school in each state, but this is just a map of where MSAN is on the map, basically. So MSAN's national objective is to work fervently to achieve the parallel goals of closing achievement gaps while ensuring that all students are achieving at high levels. And what that means is giving students the opportunity to be a part of AP courses, honor courses that usually aren't advertised within the school districts. I know at Heights we do a very good job at making sure all students are aware of the AP courses that are being offered, especially with the AP fairs that we do that will be talked about later in the presentation.
Okay, so our strategic goals are it's what the district has come up with to try to close the achievement gap between non-minority students and minority students. So that, of course, that ties perfectly in with MSAN, so it could, because of what our national goal is. And so we fall under goal 2 of that whole strategic plan. So our MSAN, like our Heights MSAN objectives are to improve the achievement gap, and we want to enroll more students in higher level courses. So like honors classes and AP classes, we want to raise the numbers of people who are, of minority students who are taking those classes. We want to encourage students to get secondary degrees and higher, of course. And we want to promote cultural diversity in our school, and of course that's like just what MSAN does.
Now we're going to pass it over to the middle schoolers.
Good evening. Good evening. Heights Middle School, MSAN advisors, Mrs. Oden and Mrs. Bergen, selected students to take part in a statewide program known as All In Student Academy. This group represents the demographic of Heights Middle School. We are all members of All In. I'm Ashton Everett, this is Nat Tyler, and Nico Foster.
So our goal is to create a more open-minded and accepting school environment. So what we plan to do is to create a more inclusive and accepting school environment is we're going to try and interact and mentor 6th grade students. And we will be doing presentations and activities. And while we do the presentations and activities, we will try to incorporate real-life things that are going on, such as issues with racial groups, and try to address the growing suicide epidemic among young people, and basically try to teach everybody that everyone matters. This is the flyer that everybody that's here, as well as the 2 representatives that weren't here, created. And basically, we use the justice scale to show that everyone is equal and nobody is different. We got that quote from Barbara Jordan, who was a member of the United States Congress from 1973 to 1979. It says, how do we create a harmonious society out of so many kinds of people? The key is tolerance, the one value that is indispensable in creating community.
So we created a timeline in November and December we created a goal and we discussed what we wanted to achieve in our school. In December we also created a logo and a flyer, and we put up flyers all around the school. And in January we made announcements and quotes for the school and cafeteria. And in February we met with the principal to discuss plans and his input on trainings. And he approved it. And in February we also picked 5 8th graders to help us create our plan. And in April we will talk to 6th graders during their lunch times about diversity and social justice. And so we met with the principal earlier in the year. We met with Mr. McNichols, and we informed him about our initiative. He liked it, and he discussed it with Dr. Johnson, the other principal of our school, and we received permission to do our plan. And every week for like 2 or 3 days, we go to Miss Bergen's classroom to eat lunch and discuss our plan.
Multiple times a week, we do announcements, both in the morning and in the afternoon. And we use quotes from people who significantly impacted social progress. We use quotes in our announcements on our flyer, and they are posted in the lunchroom on our computer screens. How do we create a harmonious society out of so many kinds of people? The key is tolerance, the one value that is indispensable in creating community. Barbara Jordan. Our diversity is our strength. What a dull and pointless life it would be if we were all the same. Angelina Jolie. We should all know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter their color. Maya Angelou. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what will you do for others? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Throughout the year, we run around the Heights Middle School campus putting up flyers that displays our campaign to the students and the staff in our building. So far, we've traveled to 3 different colleges and universities with Heights High School, learning different skills and taking part in different activities to help better ourselves and allow us to develop new skills that we will display at our middle school. So far, we've traveled to Youngstown State University, Kent State University, and the Neo Medical College in Rootstown, Ohio.
We trained more 8th graders, 5, to assist in helping us with our plan with the 6th graders, which will happen March through May. We created a presentation one day to our selected 8th graders to teach them about All In, what we plan to do.
What is next and where we are headed? As mentioned before, we will assemble and speak to 6th graders during their lunch times through presentations in our auditorium. We will take designated groups and speak to them about our purpose and our project. This will happen over the course of about 2 weeks. We will speak with each group at least twice. We will use skits to enforce our point and play a game called Diversity Bingo, which allows the 6th graders to interact with each other, learn more about each other, and understand that being different is okay, that nobody is exactly the same. They will be introduced to our project, since they will be the ones taking our place when we have moved on to high school. They will help us carry out our goal, which is striving for equality. Thank you.
So I know your presentation isn't done, but just if some guy or gal or mom or dad haven't told you that they're proud of you, man, they should. I mean, your teachers, that awesome presentation. I know you guys are probably going to go out in the hall because there's just not enough space, but thank you. You guys are some of the people that make the school district so great. Wow. And I have to tell you. Yeah, and kudos to your parents and the teachers that got you here. Good job.
Good job.
Hello, my name is Josephine Johnson, one of the leaders of MSAM. And the few years that I have been with MSAM, it has been nothing but growth and opportunity. MSAM enforces change within the community and helps awaken the voices of kids who didn't know their voice could even be heard or even mattered. MSAN helps the community see a vision that we can create and make reality within the steps of progression with kids who are courageous, optimistic, and outspoken to help the community be a better and bigger place. Kids in MSAN help participate of being a leader and what a difference we can make in our community each and every day and help solve problems each and every day. The reason that MSAN had picked focus as our theme, which stands for fighting our cause, unified in a struggle, is because the whole point is to fight for social justice against our system. We have, and no matter what race, religion, and color that we are as people, all deserve equality. In our workplace, in the public, and our education. And we are a movement to resolve the issues and the struggles that we go through. And now we have, and without having the fair access to achieve power, we have to close the achievement gap. We have to close the achievement gap and make our school systems better for each child each and every day. The issues that MSAN are trying to achieve in our community nationally is the fact that our children need all the help that we can get right now. They are broken and torn, and no one is there to help them rise above the negativity and use that anger that we put to fists to each other's faces, but turn that rage into something beautiful to help each other, love each other more, and educate each other more, and push us to have social justice, not in our community, but in other areas of Ohio and worldwide. We shouldn't be shooting, fighting, or putting out so much hatred as young as we are. MSAN as a movement is diverse and unique and is trying to end the violence and unjustified issues that we face as a community. We have had protests and marches of MSAN. MSAN recently was led our fight for gun violence within the school community. MSAN was the main reputation as students to speak upon an issue that was so scarce and that has so much momentum to students nationally. The marches and protests is so important because it's to show kids what a leader looks like, how confidence looks, and the courage to speak up against the change and difference you want to make. It can make an incredible impact. If you choose to do it now and not later, you don't know what can happen in the future.
Okay, so we had the pleasure of hosting this year's National MSAN Conference, which was absolutely amazing. We had 25 districts that attended from Arizona all the way into New Jersey. We actually worked on our action plan. We came up with it there, and also the other schools that attended came up with the action plan there as well. We did icebreakers to get to know everybody that was there, and we also had a few guest speakers, one of them being Jeff Johnson, who is a radio personality and also a Heights alum.
So we also had Jamie Almazan, who was a guest speaker at the conference, and he was American Latino, and he came and he talked about his experience having immigrant parents and how he uses his platform to spread equity through the world.
And while also we're trying to close the achievement gap, we also want to make college seem like it's very possible for us to get there. So we went on visits to Kent State, Cleveland State, and
Case Western Reserve University.
And we also did like fun activities, going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We had a live band that played there. We walked through the museum, and since it's one of its kind, the other students had a blast, and so did I.
And Khan actually got to host the MSAN's Got Talent, where we had all the kids from the conference be able to come up voluntarily and show their talent, and it was a really good time. And we hosted, and everyone was really unique, and it just showed like black magic and just minority magic in general, and it was really great.
So one of the action plans that we had came up with for our males at the high school is called Boys to Men, which is basically a peer mentoring program to uplift young males in our school systems, push them to get better grades, and also become better role models further down the line. We focus on brotherhood, academic excellence, and accountability. We want to encourage positive attitudes and demeanor. So while you're getting great grades, you also want to look good and present yourself well. We also have a student and faculty relationship. So we have powerful males in our schools where a lot of young males they look up to. So we want to encourage them, and sometimes that male that they look up to in our school, that may be that student's father figure, and they push them as well to become bigger and better people in our society.
Another one of our action plans that we came up with is called Tea Talk, and this is for our girls. So this is the point of Tea Talks is to create healthy relationships, and that's between your friends, your mom, your sister, just everyone that you surround yourself with. They also have peer mentoring, so we have other girls encouraging other girls, because you know how the girl community is, and sometimes they like to bring each other down, but we're going to try and get rid of that and help each other out, and also peer mentoring with your teachers as well. Student-parent relationship, like I said, we had a speaker come in and talk to girls who had troubles with their mom, because you know at the age in high school how you start to go back and forth with your mom. So we had someone come in and help us out with that. So we promote sisterhood, priority setting, so putting your priorities first. So you know you want to put school first, your education, your priorities, and not necessarily, you know, sometimes they get it mixed up with drama and boys, so making sure that we have everything set. Also anger management and appropriate reactions to situations, like I said before, the drama that happens in the girl community. We just want to make sure that they know what they're doing, and that there's alternative reactions that you can do instead of just, you know, going out and fighting or whatever you choose to do. And creating upstanders, making sure that you're not being a bystander, and if you see something, you say something, because it happens a lot in the school district where girls are getting bullied or just getting talked about, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that they have a voice and they can say something, and being a bystander is not good.
So some of the recent programming we've done in our school is the I Am AP Fair. So students that have already taken these AP classes, because we offer a ton at Heights, they go down and sit during their lunch period, and they try to get other students to come talk to them, because we want to promote doing what you do. So if you feel really good at science, why wouldn't you take AP Chemistry or AP Bio? And we want more people to feel like AP is something that they can do. The equity of schools, so that is what I was talking about at the beginning, is there's a whole program, and MSAN ties in directly with Goal 2, because of the our goal to close the achievement gap between minority students and non-minority students. And then math tutoring is something we offer after school. Say a student is having a really hard time with their algebra homework or their geometry homework, they can come in and they can get help with whatever they need, because, you know, we want to promote students making the best effort they can, even if they're not that great at something. So we've also had cultural diversity programs. So recently we had a soul food dinner. So everybody came together. We did karaoke. The middle school was there. There was dancing. We played a big game of Kahoot. Everybody just got to come together, the whole community, and have like a really good time. We also did something similar with our Kwanzaa celebration back in December. And we also went on visits to Holocaust museums, because, you know, we want to learn about like these other cultures and other like histories that we may not think about in any other situation. So yeah, so this is some of the other stuff that I was talking about, the soul food dinner. Our Heights blackout is like one day a year. We all come together. We all wear all black. It's actually like really cool when you're walking through the hallways. We get to see like everybody like that's participating in this. And our Africans Americans in Science. So every Wednesday after school in February, we had a African American in science, like a teacher or whatever they do, come in and talk and do a panel and be able to talk to the students, so students could see that they can be a scientist.
Okay, so not only do we learn about the culture and diversities in MSAN, we also focus on community service as well. Some of the community service things that we did was gather school supplies for Hurricane Harvey, the cover tree cleanup, the canvas for school levy, the coat drive, and creating blankets for the homeless. And I experienced doing the creating blankets for the homeless when we was in Cincinnati at Arbor Shipman Nichols School. And we made blankets, created blankets for the homeless, and then we gave them to them. So that was one of the things we did.
My name is Christine. Hi. I've been MSAN since I was in 8th grade. Miss Bergen actually introduced me into the club. Since then, I experienced a lot with MSAN. Middle school MSAN, I would say, is like a good start to like prepare you for like the very complex things we have to go through in high school. Like in high school, like I've went through like a lot of things where like I wasn't comfortable in like certain classes, but like knowing that MSAN was there to support me since I was in 8th grade, I was more comfortable. And since MSAN is that like impactful, we've been trying to connect with the middle school students, like as high school students, so that they're more prepared. We do things like such as like group programming, like Micaiah mentioned, the soul food dinner, where we all come together and just hang out to build like a bond and a relationship between us. And then we have peer mentoring and shadowing activities where we once just went to an all-in conference and we talked about like overcoming adversity and things like that in your community. So basically we just try to be like role models to them and like help them out when they're in need, because we're all kind of like a family.
So how can you help us? So we encourage you to come to our MSAN meetings and events. They are like open. I know a lot of times Dr. Dixon and Dr. and Mrs. Gould, they have come to our meetings a lot, and they also helped us for like another meeting we did was getting ready for the conference. So we encourage anybody to come, teachers, board members, just anybody. Pass on information about cultural relevant events. So anything that you feel like would be good for MSAN to be a part of, we encourage you to let us know about that, because we want to be like get out there and be more a part of the community. Help us find ways to increase community involvement with MSAN. So we do a lot of things for the community, but we want to do things with the community too. So not just the Coventry cleanup, we want to do stuff with the community. We encourage students to take higher level courses. So if you see a student who, this is for teachers, so if you see a student who is doing good in their classes and like it's a regular class, encourage them to take an honors or AP class, because that's going to give them the college readiness that they need from AP. And just make sure that's something they'll be good for. Don't just push them just because, just make sure they're ready for it. And also inform us of ways that we can be of assistance around the district. So we like to help out throughout the district, not just the community, but the district too. So if you need help with anything or feel like that MSAN should be a part of it, please feel free to let us know. We have an open door policy, and we like to help out.
We just want to thank everybody for listening to our presentation, and have a nice night. Oh, are there any questions?
May I ask a question? Do you know how many students came to the conference from those 25 school districts you mentioned?
There was approximately 300 people there total, with students and chaperones, so it was approximately 300.
That's terrific. Thank you.
You invited us to your events. Are they posted on the district calendar? Is that how we would find out about them?
Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd also like for you to, we weren't able to connect it, but there, if you go to our National Minority Student Achievement Network website, there's a wonderful video that was done by one of our Heights parents that shows you and showcases the tremendous amount of work that took place during the conference. It is beautiful. So please take a few moments out of your day and go to the national website. It's Minority Student Achievement. You'll see it as soon as you click on it. You'll be glad you did.
Is there a way that we could maybe put a news item out that links to that, or was there a news item out that had that at one time?
Yeah.
Was, okay.
So, I heard a couple of things throughout this amazing presentation that really made me think. You know, we are, as I hope you all know, we are incredibly proud of the work that our high school students are doing in MSAN and in the AP courses that you so rightly gave the district a shout out for. But I also heard you say the word courageous, and I heard you talk about being ready for it. And it takes a great deal of courage, I think, to sign up for an AP class because they just have this aura about them. And so I guess I have a question that, do you feel that we are doing a good enough job building students up through encouraging middle school students to take honors courses? Because I think going from a regular level course to an AP course is can be such an enormous jump that I just want to make sure that you think, and you guys are the experts, not us, because you're living it. You know, are we doing as good a job as we should be doing, sort of in teacher talk, scaffolding, right? Building our students up so that they are ready for it. Wow. So that's, anybody who wants to sort of step into that, I would love it. And the answer doesn't have to be yes.
Yeah,
if the answer is
not.
no, speak the truth.
I really don't think that students are being prepared for these classes, only because I was one of those students, and like some like really like talented, gifted people get overlooked with like these like standardized tests. Like, I'm not a good test taker, but I know that I'm not dumb. And since middle school, like, I was told that like I should have been in honors and AP, like honors class, like gifted programs, but I was not. And when I got to high school, I was obviously recommended to be in those programs. But then when I got there, all I saw was white kids. So it's just like, it's like a rude awakening when you get there. And then I was also like uncomfortable in my surroundings, but I also was not ready for the workload. Like, I didn't know what to do at all. Like, without Miss Washington, I would have been fail.
I agree. I agree with Christine with how the environment is uncomfortable. I feel as though we should try and kill the stigma with kids see like it's hard work, but we should build towards that hard work. We should build workshops or have extra clubs or activities the kids can feel more comfortable in that environment so they can be more prepared for the course instead of jumping into the course and want to get out because that environment they feel unacceptable.
And also, I know the teachers do try to prepare you, but it's just such, like Christine said, the workload is enormous. Like, I know when my first quarter, or 2 quarters really, I went from like pre-calc to AP calc, and when I saw how much work I got, I was like, whoa, it kind of like threw me back and gave me a reality check. And that's one thing I will say it does do, is it gives you a reality check that shows you that this is what college will be like. Because I do take CCP classes at John Carroll now, so that did help prepare me for that. But we need to be prepared more for the AP workload. So like show them more like, okay, I'm gonna push you to honors, and then after you get pushed to honors, you get used to honors, then get pushed to AP instead of just doing regular, hey, do AP now.
Right. Wow. Thank you.
So I was gonna say that
like Dash said, I feel like teachers should be recruiting students for these classes. Because for me, when I was in math class, I was an 8th grader getting 240 and 250s on math tests. And teachers will always tell me, like, you should be in these classes, but they would never, like, take me and put me in there. Wow. So I feel like that as a high schooler, I could be way farther than I am right now, and I could be earning more credits than what I am if teachers would have actually took that step and put me in those classes.
I can project.
So I think as a staff, you guys do a swell job of pushing for the students who are already excelling in your class, but you kind of leave off the kids who maybe have a C average, which I think sometimes you should focus on those kids who you see aren't as good as the other kids who aren't pushing themselves as good as they should. So maybe if you guys focus on the kids who maybe have a low C, low B, just let them know that, yo, AP class is still for you. Like, you know, you can still do an honors class. You can still get up there. You can still be like the kid who have straight A's in all these honors classes. Yeah.
That's good. To the mic, yeah.
Okay, so I think I could talk loud enough. You guys sure? Okay. I agree with what everyone has said. When I was transitioning from middle school to high school, the counselors came to our school to help us schedule, or actually maybe I think it was 9th to 10th grade, because I'm in honors math, A push, all of that. And when I was scheduling, it was kind of made to seem like I wouldn't be able to handle my schedule because it was all these hard classes. But then my counterparts, who aren't the same color as me, I mean, it was like it would be a breeze for them. So, and I took the classes and I'm doing well this year, but it was kind of discouraging at first, and I'm doing fine now. But I just feel like we should be encouraged more to take those classes, not discouraged.
So the last item on your how can we help you is inform you of ways that you can be of assistance around the district. And my experience as a teacher, I've always said to my students, and I'll say it to you guys, you have so much more influence on other students than we will ever. So what I would love for us to do is to find a platform for you all to spend more time at the middle school and tell those stories to the students. And instead of us push them in, you all pull them in. Because I think that will go much farther than just another teacher talking about some map score or some other test score. I want them to hear your experiences. So maybe we can try to build a structure for that to happen.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it should start in elementary, because the kids are going from elementary to middle school to high school, and if they come prepared, then they will achieve.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'm very proud of our MSAN students, and we just have to find a way that is inviting, that as far as these AP courses are taken, I had heard that some of you didn't feel that you were invited, or you felt that you was pushed away, and we just have to do a better job at that. But I'm just very proud of our future leaders.
Me too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are the middle school students still here? Did they leave? Oh, the middle school, they're still in the back.
Yes.
So any comments or questions that you guys have for them? If the middle school students if you come back up, please, and stand with the behind here, please.
Can some of you guys share with us what your course load's like?
I'll share mine. So I take.
Thank you.
Hey, so I take currently calculus, 2 classes at John Carroll and 1 class at Tri-C, and I'm currently enrolling in 4 courses over the summer to take at John Carroll and Tri-C. I also take AVID, which this year, it's not like sophomore and freshman year. We're doing more college preparatory stuff, writing comment applications. So, yeah, pretty thorough schedule.
Yeah, nice.
Good.
Oh, am I?
So I take 2 classes in the morning at John Carroll, and then I transition over to AVID. What I take? Oh, public speaking, foods, and then I take public speaking to get my honors diploma, which I was pushed to get.
There you go.
Hello? Okay. So I take AVID and I take college courses, history, English.
I take AP Lang, Honors Physics, ASL 4, and Oh, and I'm in choir and singers. So.
Okay, I take AP US History. It's really reading intensive, and you have to comprehend. And I take honors pre-calc, and I also take honors English too with Miss Lambright for any of you guys that know her.
So it's like an army of you guys. How many students are part of your? Is it a club? I mean, we hear about it. But
Well, MSAN is like an organization. It's all over the country. It started actually in Wisconsin. So, of course, like in just the schools, it can feel like a club. But for those of us who went to the conference, like you can really see how much of a program it is.
Yeah.
And we have approximately 60 students on our roster. I mean, they kind of flow in and out with sports and other activities, but we have a roster of approximately 60 students.
And they start at the middle school level, correct? Okay.
Yes, 60.
Yep. And just as a little context, remember Cleveland Heights was one of the founding districts of MSAN. And it was during that time was suburban districts had they were seeing a gradual number of African American students that were moving to the suburbs. And so this group of districts decided to come together around best practices and research to find ways that those students were doing as well as the minority students at that time. So Cleveland Heights and Shaker were two of the founding districts. Now we're seeing that more of these districts are more minorities because now we know that across the United States, our districts, we know that the Hispanic population is one of the fastest growing populations across the United States. So we have more districts that are majority minority than not. So when we're talking about those achievement gaps, we also want to make sure we're talking about closing the opportunity gaps as well. And I think that's something that we're doing with the exposure, with All In, MSAN, getting our students access to AP. So I like your statement, you know, what can we do? I know one thing that we as adults can do is make sure we are removing those barriers. So even though students are talking about some things that they want to happen, if we as adults are not creating a system that are removing those barriers, it's going to make it even challenging for our students. So we have to, you know, look in the mirror and say, what are we doing that's stopping our students from access to these classes? Because if they have so articulated, they have every right to be in those classes, but they also recognize that they must be prepared. So I like that, and that's why I said it's perfect that you have the audience here. You have teachers here, administrators here, who are here to support that, and hopefully they're going to go back and have conversations in their schools and among themselves about making sure that they are not putting the barriers up, because we're trying to make sure that happens, and we have a great group of teachers and administrators that they're working to that end. But I agree with the board that some other things that we can do, let's talk about it, let's set that platform. We know as our middle school students, you did so well. I can't wait till you become high school students that are sitting here and take their places. But it starts with us starting, just the person behind says starts with elementary schools. We have Noble Elementary, which now is an AVID school. They're piloting the AVID program at Noble. So we want to make sure that our students are prepared, that they can articulate when they come to the mic, but they are aware of what's happening not only in Cleveland Heights, but aware of what's happening nationally. And I think when we talk about the opportunity to hold a national conference, we made that opportunity happen for you guys, and you guys were outstanding. We were a proud group that day to see you guys on a national stage. So you go to this website, you see Cleveland Heights. This is what we do, and you have a supportive environment, but please push us, as you heard the board members say. What is it that we can do? And they're going to make sure that I put those things in place. So please don't hold back about things that we can do, because we want to make sure that you have the best experience, the best opportunities, so that you are well prepared when you leave and go to college and careers and whatever it is that you want to do. We want to make sure that you are prepared to do so. We're proud of you. So proud of you.
Thank you.
So I want to make sure you guys understand the power that you have here, okay? So you're making change. Imagine me, old white guy, sitting in your cafeteria trying to get more kids to go take AP classes. Yeah, that's not going to work. You guys sitting in the cafeteria, people are going to listen to you. They're going to see your successes. Yeah, I may be able to sign a lot of things for Scott, but the real power is in your hands. You guys are the ones that are making change. So if there's something you need or something we could do to help enable you guys, that's where we come in. Talk to your teachers, talk to Dr. Dixon, come back to a board meeting. We've got public comment every month. Email us. Or if there's, some of the best board meetings we have is when we hear about these successes.
That's why we do this.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you. Thank you. So we'll transition to our middle school. Dr. Womack?
So our next item is to talk about the middle schools. And I just want to share with you how the board feels about this. Originally, we were going to have a presentation about equity. And with some of the lockdown events and just hearing from parents, hearing from teachers, we felt it was important as a board to get a presentation from the school district to get a better, so we would have a better understanding of just some of the issues that are going on. So and I don't know where this is going to head. We asked Dr. Dixon to prepare a presentation for us. We're going to have a conversation when we're done. I had a conversation with Dan Hines earlier today. Dan was asking and pushing pretty hard to have a component in this meeting to include public comment. I think what we need to do is we need to listen. We need to get a better handle of what's going on, and then we as a board can have a conversation of what are the next steps. Maybe it's a forum. Maybe it's trying to just get some questions answered. But I think there's some reality and there's some perception. I think we just want to get and there's some issues with the building. So Dr. Dixon, why don't you share with us what you have, and we can kind of go from there.
So our second agenda item is school safety concerns. So we understand it as at an unprecedented high. Even today, we learned of yet another school shooting, and this time in Maryland. So we understand that innocent lives are being taken by children who are hurting. So people are asking why. School boards and communities are asking for more gun control. School staff and parents are advocating for more social emotional support for students. Students across the country are rising up and saying enough is enough. Is it frustrating? Yes. It is our number one priority to ensure that every student learns in a safe building. It starts when students get on the bus, ride into school, or even when they're dropped off in front of the building. As superintendent, I don't take this responsibility lightly. Every student and every staff member is important to this organization, and you have entrusted in me as a leader and 5 board members to ensure that this happens. Our mission statement: our schools provide a challenging and engaging education to prepare our students to become responsible citizens and succeed in college and careers. And along with providing a challenging and engaging education, we must provide a safe school environment conducive to learning for all students. That is not explicitly stated, however, it is understood. Every school-based administrator understands that they are charged to lead. In each school building, they must create the culture and climate where students can learn and teachers can teach. There are no exceptions to this. A school climate is where strong administrative leadership is. We have high expectations for all of our students. We have school atmosphere is orderly, is not rigid or oppressive. And the administration makes it clear that the school is a safe learning environment. So tonight, the middle school administrative team will share a few, some thoughts around 4 main ideas. One, they're going to share their top issues that they're experiencing, what systems they have in place to address them, how they're engaging their staff, the parents, and students to assist, and what additional support do they believe is needed. The team takes full responsibility for the culture and climate that exists currently, and clearly understand that my expectation is they will make immediate changes. They will share the next steps that they are taking to that end. So we have the principals and assistant principals and our dean of students that are here tonight to share those next steps. So I turn it over to the middle school team.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. My name is Jeff Johnston. I'm one of the principals of Heights Middle School, Monticello. And I'm joined tonight by Mr. McNichols, Mr. Dubsky, Ms. Lackey, and Ms. Armstrong. We are the administrative team at Heights Middle School. So we appreciate the opportunity. We recognize that there are questions and concerns, and we look forward to sharing more about our work at Heights Middle School. Mr. McNichols and I will share the overview tonight. So when we think about issues, let's start with some of the things that we've been working with throughout the year. One of them is an efficient lunch, given the number of students that we're working with. This has been something that we have been working on since the start of the school year, and we'll get into more a little bit in terms of what we've done to address that. Efficient student movement throughout the building, particularly in passing time. So knowing that our students have, at times, distance to walk in large groups, getting there efficiently, making sure that we recognize what the challenges may be within the building and how the supervision occurs during those times. Looking at offering alternative options for kids who may not be succeeding within our traditional learning environment. What can we do that is different for them? And what can we do that will allow us to address the smaller number of students who are chronically struggling within our schools? And what options do we have? We had a unique challenge of bringing 2 schools together, so creating a common culture within our middle school, creating one Heights Middle School, both within the students and within the staff. And are we achieving that? That has been something that we have continued to work on. With that comes the recognition that when you do something new, you may have to do some activities in a new way. And are we recognizing and appreciating the existing traditions while establishing things that will work for our new environment and our new number of students? We also know that there is, as Dr. Dixon mentioned, a heightened focus on school safety, given what has been happening throughout our nation. And let's be honest about what's been happening within our middle school. So we had an incident where we had a student see something and say something regarding something they had heard the night before school. We responded to that and worked in close partnership with our University Heights Police to address that situation. That was a student doing something that we had asked them to do, and something that was driven by some of the incidents that have been occurring throughout the nation. We followed that with an incident in our cafeteria where smoke was going through our cafeteria because of an appliance that was left on. And students had to exit out and evacuate out of our cafeteria in a way they haven't had to do before. And in conversations with them, they were talking about, isn't that what happened in Parkland? Isn't that what happened in that situation. So we understood that was occurring. We then subsequently had a bomb threat that required that we evacuate to the high school. That is a traumatic thing for students and staff, everybody to orchestrate that. We understand that. 2 days later, we had a similar type security threat, which required us to do a modified 2 lockdown and also go through our building. So we do understand that when you put those things together, they heighten what may have already been felt. So that's our reality. And what I will say is throughout each one of those circumstances, I have been nothing but impressed by our students and nothing but impressed by our staff and how they have worked together and responded. But those were emergency situations, and those were things that tested our incident command structure and things we had to respond to. We've also had rumors about students wanting to fight each other that we shared with our community. We did so because we felt it was important to let our community know that this was happening within our school. We are not unique. We are facing a major challenge with social media, how information flows between our students. We talk to them all the time about it. But when it comes into our school and creates the opportunity for something happening, that is a concern and that is a threat. And so it's something that we've been communicating and working with our staff on. We've been working with many of our students on. Those are things that contribute to the perception of the school. But it's important for us to address that as it happens. We also have a struggle with students wanting to respond appropriately to directive and also responding appropriately to traditional school discipline. So, you know, if you have a student who's being disciplined in a certain way in a certain thing and that doesn't seem to change their behavior, then you need to have a backup plan and you need to have some alternatives in place that you can address going forward. So those are different things that have been contributing overall to our biggest challenge, which is making sure and ensuring, as Dr. Dixon has said, in which all of us take responsibility for, and that is ensuring a safe, respectful, responsible school environment for our students and our staff. And that is our #1 charge. We recognize that. So we wanted to identify some of the things that we've been working to work through as we address that. We're going to talk a little bit now about some of the things that we've been doing to try to improve those situations.
Good evening. My name is Mr. McNichols. And what I'm going to talk about is some of the steps that we've taken, because throughout the whole year, we've had to constantly modify as all of our plans, because our kids have been teaching us a lot about how we use the building, how they use the building. You know, we want to have a mix of behavioral responses as well as recognizing those that are doing right, because we do have a lot of students who are doing right. I believe it's about 60% of our kids don't even have a referral. So on a daily basis, the bulk of our students, they do know what to do and they do it well. One of our big challenges has been the cafeteria, because you have 400 students that are coming in to eat. So we took steps starting back in October to reduce the amount of students that come in. Dr. Johnston, with the support of the teachers who bring students in by content for 6th and 7th grade, about 100 students a day, and it rotates each week. They come into the auditorium and he's able to do some social emotional programming with them, video review, interesting topics. What that does is it helps us reduce the total number of students that we have in the cafeteria. The students that are in the cafeteria are able to get through the line, order, get their food, transition back. Many of them are starting to finish eating as the next group is coming in out of the auditorium. Those students are able to transition back to do study hall. So we're trying to find some ways that we can reduce the number of students there. For our 8th grade, we have the luxury of being able to use a gym because we don't have any electives. And, you know, it's fantastic for us, because that's one of the biggest things the kids are afraid of losing is the privilege of going down to the gym. So the tables are the cleanest. They're all seated because they want to make sure that they can go down. Knowing that next year we're planning to make some changes to our schedule where we will not have any electives classes during the lunchtime, because we know that we need to be able to get kids into the gymnasiums to have an opportunity to get some release of physical energy. So, you know, as we're learning, we're also thinking about our planning moving forward for next year. when we're looking at how we approach discipline at the beginning of the year, Ms. Lackey was doing the bulk of the discipline for Monticello. Ms. Armstrong was doing the discipline for Roxborough. Mr. Dubsky was taking care of a lot of the minor infractions. And what we found is that's not a very efficient way to be able to address the issues that we were seeing. So now we've changed our structure where they each have a grade level. And since the beginning of the year, they had originally planned amongst themselves a consistent discipline system, because we don't want kids being treated different from school to school or across grade levels. We need to make sure, as big as we are, that we are being consistent and fair. We did develop in November with our staff some collective commitments around things that we will not tolerate. We are constantly working on attendance, because if you've been in the building, you know how large it is. Lots of nooks and crannies for kids to hide. So making sure that we're able to find them, get them into class so that they can be successful. We want students to be able to follow directives. Most of our students can do that. We have some that is a struggle. How do we approach that with discipline so we can get those behaviors changed? We also are working on profanity, because we want students to be able to speak appropriately. They don't always do it. We've got to address it when they don't. We just, over the last 2 days, have had 8th grade and 6th grade behavior assemblies. They're coupled with working with our students on training on how to evacuate from large space like the cafeteria. Based on our experience a couple weeks ago, we learned that it is important that they have a clear understanding of how to do that. So we're balancing a two-part presentation. One is reviewing expectations, especially as we come into the warm weather. This is when kids are outside more, they have more opportunities to possibly have some negative interactions, making sure they understand what they should be doing in school, and then also reviewing the safety components. We will continue to have social emotional groups. Our counselors run boys council and girls circles groups. Those students are selected based on people that are struggling academically and behaviorally, so they're able to get some social skills training. We also have a counselor from the SAVE program that helps facilitate some of those programs. We just finished grief group, because some of our students struggle because they've had a personal tragedy in their life. At this time, we have had people attend restorative justice training, and it is being implemented in our ALC program. We'll talk a little bit later, but when we have conference night next week, we're going to have an opportunity for parents to participate in a restorative circle as part of our family room. So, it's something that gives us an opportunity to process with the kids what they're struggling with and how their actions impact others, so we can change behavior. The other thing that we've completed is we know that we need to find a better way to transition students into 6th grade. We tried to get our staff trained in a program called WEB, which is a 8th grade mentor program for 6th graders. We weren't able to do it and meet the timeline for registration, but now we have 5 people who have been trained. They're in the planning process to set up our program for next year, and we're getting ready to identify 80 8th graders who will mentor incoming 6th graders next year, current 7th graders. That will do the mentoring. We do have PEP Assist that comes in. They work with several of our staff members. Some people we've recommended work with PEP Assist. They have a person that comes in, observes their class, gives them feedback on strategies so that they can implement some different classroom management techniques. We've had people volunteer because they have challenging students, and the strategies that they've used in the past just aren't working, so they're looking for different alternatives. That happens every Thursday. We also have an academic intervention program called ASIC, because we know that as students struggle academically, they fall behind, they can become disconnected from the learning. That meets 2 days a week, where students get math and ELA support from 3 to 5. We provide them transportation home, a meal. Now, in terms of recognizing our correct behavior, next Thursday we are going to have our 3rd honor roll merit roll breakfast. We typically have been recognizing anywhere from, I think it was 330 students the last quarter. The first quarter might have been closer to 400, but we will have a breakfast for the students where they get a certificate. All of our students have an opportunity to earn ROARS cards, which are based on the acronym for respectful, on time, accepting, responsible, and safe. If they are found by staff to be meeting those expectations, they get a ticket. They can turn it in every other Wednesday. They get food treats. They can get small gifts that recognize the fact that they're meeting our expectations. We have special events through our PBIS program. We will have students this Friday who are exemplary with behavior and attendance that will be doing a bowling incentive. Next month there's a movie incentive. We're going to have a cookout in May. So we're trying to find regular ways to recognize the fact that we do have kids that do well and are meeting what we're asking them to do. We love to post on Twitter when our kids are out at colleges and representing us at state and local events. We do our Student of the Month attribute recognition based on our IB program. So, in November, if you're reflective, you get your picture taken. There are incentives. The teachers nominate the students that best exemplify that attribute. December was Inquirers. January was Inquirers. December was Open-Minded. So we have these different attributes where, we want to promote positive behavior. Grade levels have field trips. I just accepted one for the 7th grade today that's going on my calendar for the end of the year because the teams try to also recognize their students. And we have some different kinds of clubs beyond traditional schools. This year we started a game club that the PTA helps support with mini grants to buy games for our students so that they have some positive things to do after school. With the weather warming up, we'll have Frisbee Club, and every Friday we have the Environmental Club collecting recyclables in the building. So, it's not just the traditional things like sports or student council that we're using to connect with our students. We also have some non-traditional things that really are trying to meet the needs of a large group of students.
I want to add into that we've had some grade level teams who have come together as well and done some incentive within their grade level teams for behavior, different types of Tier 3 intervention programs that they've put into place as grade level teams working with amongst themselves and also working with administration. So it's not it's not the kind of thing that you can do entirely from an administrative team. You have to have a collective effort, and there are examples of different types of interventions that our grade level teams have been doing, which is also part of what we've been responding to. One of the areas that we were looking at is what parents in the community can do to assist. And a couple of things that we wanted to point out. I think one is that, we have identified with our ROARs and our behavioral expectations things that we believe will make a student successful in our schools. And having our families reinforce that would be very helpful. Participation in curriculum nights. I know that our teachers love to meet with our families, and they like it when parents show up. And the more engagement we have with our schools through that process and meeting with teachers and learning about the academic side of things and what's happening, what's most important, that would be fantastic. Attending team meetings. Our teachers, our counselors work hard to try to set up opportunities for families to attend, whether it be a structured IEP meeting or even if it be an intervention meeting. And I know that that we want to work in every way possible with our families to ensure that, one, we hear their voice at the table, and two, that their input is given into plans that are being developed. It is a great thing to see a team gathered around working on solutions for a child when they're working collectively together. So the more that our parents and communities can do that, the better. This next one is important. It talks about social media, and it talks about just understanding how it's working. And I have kids, and the social media world is one that can be extremely exciting but incredibly damaging. And it is impossible for us to count the number of times that we had to respond to something, or a teacher or a staff member has had to respond to something that has been produced on social media. So if we can partner with our families to monitor that, to understand it. We talk about it in the auditorium. The kids roll their eyes because I'm talking to them about internet privacy, right? But the idea is that this is their world, and I don't think they understand at this point how powerful that world is. And we see it all the time. and we see it in the correspondence that our teachers have with students. I just think it's something that if we can work as a district in partnership with them, that will be helpful. Two other areas that works well in is dress code and cell phones. And we've been working to enforce those two areas, and that's something that's going to be a big push in the spring to close out the year, that we want to make sure as the weather gets warmer that we are in compliance with our dress code expectations, and we're in compliance with our cell phone expectations. So the more that we can work with our partners and the community and our parents on that, the better. We have a wonderful PTA, and so having our community engage with our PTA, they've come together and worked very well. Parents in the middle, talking to parents about the experience of middle school students and how they can support them. Those are all things that we think would have a really strong impact for us. And we have, and we'll talk a little bit about it in the next piece, but we have a conference night coming up, and during that conference night, there's an opportunity in a family room to learn more about resources that are in the community. And we strongly encourage our community and our parents to take part in that. And also that we're going to do an administrative listening session and trying to think about how we can better engage our families in those conversations. We know that they have concerns. We also know that we have parents who are calling who are thanking our staff and thanking our students for what they do every day. So we need to be responsive to both, and we will make concerted efforts here coming up to have opportunities to talk with staff and talk with parents in a larger group setting, perhaps as part of our conference night.
One last thing about the PTA, it is really important that we have parents get involved. As we're getting ready to hit the end of the year, we're going to have a significant number of our parents transitioning off of PTA. I know that they are looking for people to join the nominating committee, to stand up to be officers, because we meet with them every month. We had a snow day, and I still was able to get to Lee Road Library to be able to come in and talk to our parents, because we value their opinion, and they are a great resource. They're a great group to listen to and give us feedback and ideas. So we want to make sure that that is strong. We've had some fantastic people that are getting ready to transition to the high school, and we need more people to step up with them. In terms of what's going to take place between now and the end of the school year, we want to continue our collective commitments. We want to get kids into class. We want to make sure that their language is appropriate, and we want to make sure that they can follow adult directives. Of course, our goal is to keep kids in school, but if you can't follow those directives, you might not need to be with us for a while. Behavior expectation meetings have been taking place, as I said. We will have 7th grade tomorrow and Thursday, because part of the time that we brought the other teams in, the 8th grade's in lunch, so we're not able to access at that point. But by Thursday, we will have met with all of our students just to remind them and refresh them about what our expectations are. We have talked about having some type of community forum. I know that there's been discussions with the counselors about trying to get local law enforcement and other community supports together so we can talk about how we can support this. The reality is the kids are with us 7 hours a day. We're going over to Target. We're walking to Burger King. We walk down to Warrensville Center and Cedar after school because we're trying to make sure the kids walk through the community safe, getting out to our local partners. But they're not always with us. And a lot of the things that happen, people putting threatening messages in social media is happening in their bedroom at home, but then all the repercussions come back to us, and it's frustrating. We're running up to a floor because we hear there might be something planned, and it hasn't happened. Thank God it hasn't happened, but it's frustrating because that's how at times we have to spend our day reacting to kids on social media, 11 and 12-year-olds putting out harmful messages. So we want to talk with the community about how we can possibly get some solutions for that. Again, we're going to have the community event. Lisa Hunt is working with Josephine Towns, who's our school social worker. They're bringing in community organizations because a lot of our parents, if they're newer to the community, they don't know what's available to support them. And we know that raising children today is not easy. We want to give them access to those resources. So from 4 to 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, they'll be able to go to the cafeteria Part of it will be for our Unified Arts folks to be able to host conferences, but we'll have the family room, which is a new concept. Hopefully we can grow it. You know, we want to implement some attendance interventions. We met with our union folks today, and we're going to have another meeting next week to see how we can address some of our attendance concerns as we get through the rest of the year. And then the big piece for us is recruiting these 87th graders that are going to act as role models and mentors for our 6th graders for next year. Mr. Dubsky, Ms. Carr, Ms. Frost, Ms. Radke, and Mr. Jeske were all a part of our initial crew that went and got the training because they're able to access athletes, they're able to access National Honor Society students, they're able to bring in student council, a really diverse group of kids to be able to participate in this program.
So that's the conclusion of our opening comments. I'm open for questions.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the transparency. I mean, you did outline all the events that we know about, so I appreciate you being willing to share that. And I mean, we're not trying to sweep anything under the rug, and you're not either, so thank you very much for that. I'm curious, I know we have parent-teacher conferences coming up. Do you have any idea of roughly how many parents are signed up, or percentage, or
So
how are the signups going on that?
The sign-up window doesn't close until Sunday.
Okay.
So we won't know until then. You know, we've mailed the letter home. It's the same system, TSO. It's the same password to log in. At this time, I haven't asked to get an update because it just opened this past Sunday, so it's only been open now for 3 days. But we'll know by Sunday, and we've always had people call after the fact that we're able to slide in because, you know, we want parents to be able to come in, but the great thing about our teaching staff is they'll often reach out. Conferences don't have to happen twice a year. They can happen every day, and our teams are open to meeting. That's been one of our challenges this year, being at Wiley. You bring 2 schools in, do you have enough conference rooms? And that's, I'm not trying to be funny, we have a Google sign up because we have so many people between IEPs, 504s, and then just regular teacher meetings with parents to schedule those meetings. But parents can come in anytime, call their counselor, get it set up. But we'll know more by Sunday, and we can try to get that information tomorrow if you'd like an update.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a big part of making this work, and so I, you know, would like to make sure we have a push for parents there, and if they're not there, you know, let's make sure that we do that push. The other thing is, we've talked about programs, and I know I've mentioned several times in various groups that, you know, the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office does an excellent program on internet safety. They do it geared towards children. They do it geared towards parents. I think it's time we bring that in. It's free. We did it at Garrity when I was PTA president there, and it was excellent.
We have done it before, and it is eye-opening for the kids, and I don't disagree. I think, you know, we don't do it every year because it's the same message typically, but we're in a cycle where it'd be a good time to bring them back in.
And that might be something that could be done during the lunch when you're in the auditorium with those kids, especially since, you know, the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office would probably love to come out during the day and not have to do an evening.
Right.
But I think that that would be an excellent program. I've sat through it, and I don't think we can give that message to our kids or our parents enough.
So, it has been a really rough couple of weeks, as you have mentioned, and I think that these past few weeks with events around the country have put a lot of us, made these events have made the concerns that have been building throughout the year seem all the more pressing. I think it is important to say out loud that I began to hear concerns about the middle school in particular as I was running in between the start of school and November. I started to hear some strong concerns about what was sort of usually described as a culture where behavioral consequences were not taken very seriously. That a culture, the worry, the concern was that a culture was developing that was going to be very, very hard to change and establish a more positive culture in the building. And it seems to me that that is maybe where we are, that we are at a place where there are people, there are students, there are parents, there are members of the staff and the community that are deeply concerned about that culture, the behavioral culture, the behavioral expectations culture. And while it seems as though there may be some very positive things coming down the road, I think that the student training that you discussed is a big step in the right direction. I haven't really heard a whole lot about things that need to change now. And I think that there are a great many people in the community that need to know that things are going to change now. And so I would like to hear from you what needs to change now for the entire population of our schools. I have every confidence in our staff. I have every confidence in the overwhelming majority of our students. I worry about the students who are so well behaved. I worry about what they are feeling as these behaviors are happening around them, and I'm worried about their sense of safety, and I'm worried about the culture of learning. Please tell me what's going to change before the end of this year to make sure that all of our students at Heights Middle School know that they are safe.
I think that I know there has been a consistent concern about how we promote positive and teach positive behavior. And, we were having behavioral expectations meetings with our students. I think there is a concern about the timeliness at times when we address things within the large spaces, the cafeteria. So, we've changed supervision plans. We have changed the way in which we dismiss kids because I think a lot of what happens is related to how kids move. We have been disciplining kids at a high rate for things like profanity and disruptive behavior towards staff. So part of what we have to do is continue to do that and raise that that effort and continue to do it on a consistent basis. I think part of what we have to do too is we have to continue to engage our students and continue to find our leaders. I've had a chance to within the last couple of weeks to have some conversations with some of our 8th grade students and our 8th grade leaders, and they're very, very smart kids, and they articulate things well. We need them to also show us the positive models for kids. So, greater consistency and maybe implementation when it comes to discipline, different supervision plans, continuing to work those areas, continuing to communicate with our families and telling them what we're doing. I think part of the issue is that at times there's a misunderstanding of what may be happening. It's important for us to communicate that. Talking to our staff and understanding what their concerns are. How can we better address students that they may be having difficulty with? How do we better address students that, in the transition of students between those classrooms, collaborating with them, strengthening our partnership and our practices? Those are all things. If there was a magic thing that would just change the perception of the school in a second, then we wouldn't be here. And it's going to take day-to-day work and day-to-day effort, and in sharing with our families that we are deeply committed to this work, and we do recognize the concerns, and we do, but we also know that there are challenges that we have to try to overcome. And so, you know, our practices, our daily communication, our work with students who may be highly disruptive in finding alternatives, and doing that in partnership with their families, because they are Heights kids. And if we need to create an alternative type of situation for them, as we've done throughout the year in very creative ways, and we will continue to do that. But I think that's a major key, because if you have a student who has not responded to traditional discipline and is chronically in front of that, and the teaching staff doesn't see that change, they are going to question what is going on. And we understand that. So but creating those alternatives at times is not at an immediacy. So we're working to do that. And I think just continuing to do outreach with our families in our community and talking about the way in which we're going to address the challenges going forward. So if I'm in the community and I have my concerns, I'm thinking about next year. As much as I also want to know what we're going to do tomorrow, I want to know what we're doing next year to make this change different, because I don't want to be a fifth grader doubting me coming up here next year. So how are we going to structure things? What changes are we going to make based on what we've learned? That would be my response to your question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that you talked about, you know, there's no magic wand. And I don't think that really anybody's expecting a magic wand. But I do think that people are expecting, and I've received emails in the past week or so, and I think that what people are hoping for is less of the word continue to and more of the word what we're going to do now. Because I think if we needed more continue to, we probably wouldn't be here. That's my take.
I think the one thing that I have to bring up is around the use of cell phones. And I know at the beginning of the year we said, you know, or I was in the meeting where Mr. Dubsky said, you know, no phones. And I know that the phones are used. But now we're in a situation where parents want their kids to have their phone on them because of the last couple of weeks and the incidents that have happened. And I think we need to at least look at that. And I've had several parents say to me, look, I know you're a board member, but I'm telling you now, I'm telling my kid to keep their phone on them. I've told them to keep it off. I've told them that, you know, it better not be seen, but I want them to have it on them for physical safety. So I think we might have to rethink that.
Well, what I would tell you, I took 2 phones today in the 6th grade lunch, which I almost never do. I mean, the 6th graders typically follow that rule. In both instances, the kids were using them. They're playing video games. You know, I've seen them in the back pockets. I mean, we just had this discussion. We met with our teachers after the lockdown last Thursday, and we were talking about when we go to review the safety procedures for exiting the cafeteria and coming back in during some type of situation, you know, we can't have the kids get on the phone, because if they call their parents, I had 2 parents meet me at the high school when we had to evacuate a week ago Monday. They beat us there. And that's okay because they got the message quick, and we were able to get their children to them once we had a few minutes to set up. But when we had our appliance malfunction, you know, we had a lot of parents coming in, kids that were upset. And if we have emergency vehicles coming in, you know, as part of our discussion today when we were talking about this drill, I said, kids, you got to wait. We're going to call your parents. I mean, I had a message out within 5 minutes once we came back in, soaking wet, got on the phone to call because we wanted I'm a parent. You know, I've got kids. I'd want to know what's going on. And, you know, kids were telling their parents way beyond what the truth was, and we wanted to get the real message to them. You know, we worked with Mr. Wortman to help do our communication when we had to evacuate to the high school. But, you know, the thing for the kids, we can't have parents blocking safety vehicles, that kind of thing. And we just want to reassure them that, yes, they will be able to get to their parents. Nobody got disciplined when we came back in from having to go out in the rain because they were calling their parents. We knew that they wanted to talk to them. You got to use some common sense. Our big thing right now is don't use them. Don't have them out. You know, if you've got like a little backpack purse or something like that, throw it in there. If they're using them, that's where we're looking at it as a problem, because they have technology in the classroom. They don't need to use them at that time. And I've even talked to parents on the phone in the morning in the cafeteria saying, please call our office phone and we will get your child to talk to you.
So, I mean, we have the cell phone policy, no cell phones.
Right.
But, so that's the expectation, no cell phones.
Right.
And then it's like, well, you can have a cell phone if it's hidden in your back pocket and you're not using it. I mean, if part of, and I get it, because I'm one of the parents who gave a cell phone to my kid when they're not supposed to have a cell phone, okay?
Right.
So, guilty as charged. But we also are trying to set a series of expectations for our kids. I mean, do we just say, cell phone, back pocket, you don't use it. If you use it, then there's...
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not the one to question this, okay? I'm getting way too in the weeds.
Right. All I would tell you is that we got to be pragmatic at times. And I got to be honest, I was not a big proponent of banning cell phones.
Right.
But just for me, when we committed to doing that as a team, I was willing to follow through on that, because, you know, we have had less ability for people to pass messages in school during the day that cause problems, that kind of thing. So I don't want to belabor it, but, you know, I hear your point.
Right. Okay, so, I mean, I've got a bunch of things to say. I mean, do you guys have some additional things or comments? Or, I mean, I don't want to...
I'd like a, for example, of, you said you were creating alternatives for the highly disruptive students, such as?
So we've had some students who've gone on modified days. We've changed their schedule. We've put them onto a blended instruction. We've had some students go to alternative programs through IEP process. We've had some students go to home instruction. We've had some students go full online. So we've been trying to use a variety of different things that would allow us to still serve a student, but recognize that the challenge of them operating within the environment of the building, the number of kids, it was too challenging for them. So we wanted to continue their
How
education.
many students are we talking about, roughly?
Probably 15 at the most.
How many monitors do you all have on your staff, like hall monitors or?
We have 5 security monitors.
5.
And one is always on the door.
I would also like to add now, remember, we have a discipline task force that's going to present to the board, I think in May or June, and they're going to review those recommendations moving forward. And know that as a board, we can always revisit the cell phone policy too and make some changes if we want to. And instead of saying no to them, how do we get students to use those more responsibly? So we can work on that. I also like to acknowledge too that we did, as a district, we had some building challenges. When the district decided, I think it was in 2013 and 14, I believe, that the schools would be consolidated. And then when I came on in 14-15 and tried to see how we were going to make this work, we did not think about that 2 of the mods were going to go away.
Right.
So the students, the building, they have less space than they had at the high school. And so they have some challenges with space. Now, that does not negate that, you know, students follow the rules of adults, and we have to set the expectations, and they understand that. And we have to make sure we practice with our students the behaviors. We go over and over and over with them, remind them of those. Those are some things that the team has acknowledged that they're going to refresh. So they understand that, and to Dan, to your points, they understand that those things will happen immediately and have already happened. Again, they totally understand that is the expectation that our buildings are safe. It is the expectations that they are the one that lead that they make sure that students understand the behaviors that are expected of them at all times.
and that they practice that with their students over and over again, and they make sure they talk to parents and have those conversations with our parents and the kids. Because again, the kids follow our lead, and we should not have any we should have any building where any grade comes in and they're running the building, that and they understand that, but I also want to recognize there are some challenges, and there are some challenges that maybe we as a district set too, that we didn't recognize. I want to publicly say that there are some challenges that we recognize. However, we are the adults and we lead. And I always tell the team, what we permit, we promote. So we have to make sure that we're promoting a culture of excellence. But again, to our, I want to say this to our staff that are here, the 5 of them can't do it alone. So it takes a collective effort of everyone. Our students have to be responsible. Our teachers have to help. We need our teachers, and we have some excellent teachers over there, but we need our teachers there to support our administrative team. And we need our team to reach out to their teachers and their students too. Our students can help. You saw how articulate they were tonight. I'm sure our student leaders will rise to the occasion and lead those conversations and take some of the heavy lifting off of our team. And they have strong administrative support. Our Ed Services team is there to help them anytime they need to. And the last point I have is we recognize, even when Dr. Johnson was the Director of Student Services, that we did not have an alternative education place for our middle school students. We didn't. We had some programs that were half day, and when we met last week, and they stated we need that. So Dr. Womack and the team have already submitted a proposal so that we can, for next year, have a place for our middle school students that need an alternative setting. Now, but that doesn't mean we get a list of the top 100 and they move to the alternative site. That's not what we want, because we know how that can happen. What we want to make sure is that we're creating a culture where students know the expectations, they're reminded of it over and over again, but we're not putting students in a place where they cannot think about the decisions that they're making. Right. So that's why restorative practices are so important, that we're giving students a platform. They're thinking about what they're doing and asking themselves, is this the best decision? But we do recognize and understand that some places it just doesn't work for all kids. So we and I will come to the board with a recommendation to that in May when we're talking about staffing, because we recognize it's going to take some additional staffing to move in that direction. And then with our communities and schools, that's one of the reasons we're looking at, wraparound services. How do we get more supports for our students that extend beyond the school day? And that's why wraparound services are so important, and the partnerships that the district has already connected to and will extend to get more, that's going to be able to help not only the students but help the families as well. So that's something. But they recognize, they clearly understand that something must be done today. Right. But before the end of the year, they got the message, and I think articulated that well, but I appreciate the additional questions and comments that you have for them, because it is important as a board that you recognize this and you were listening to others and you wanted to talk to them publicly about some of the things that they're doing.
Yeah, I think this is a really good start. We spoke briefly about a town hall, and I think that I sort of heard that being talked about, and I think that we should make a goal tonight to put that on the calendar. Okay. And as part of that, of course, I think we need more voices present. I was really pleased to hear that you are having discussions with the staff in addition to the families and the students. Can you tell me more about the discussions that you had with the staff today? What was that? What initiated that? How did that come? What was the results in general terms?
Well, today was initiated by staff concerns. I mean, I think there's an understanding that, and this is actually a conversation that we've been working through beginning in the fall, that there were concerns about how can we address this. And that's where the collective commitments came in November. It was a recognition that we needed to do something collectively together. We have structures in place that are just our normal structures. Our TAP process, which is a partnership with our collective bargaining unit, and there the discussions are very often about climate issues. Coming out of those discussions is a recognition that we need to do something around attendance and our unexcused absences. And so there'll be a very specific effort the fourth quarter around how to get a handle on that in terms of monitoring it. You know, that's a structured piece. Our staff is not shy about talking to us about concerns. And, you know, we have grade level team meetings, we have student assistance team meetings, we have, you know, building leadership team meetings. These are all opportunities for us to talk with them. And we've had staff meetings where we've discussed it as well, school climate. Good.
Dr. Dixon, I'm really glad to hear that you didn't use the word mistake, but you used the word challenges. You know, from my seat and what I see, what I hear from the community, what I hear from teachers, administrators, parents, and even students when you hear a message that they're trying to convey to us, which is cute and good, happy that you're advocating. I mean, sometimes where you have to begin is recognize where the mistakes were made. I am I mean, in retrospect, I am so sorry we had to smash so many people into Wiley. Okay? I am so sorry. I mean, this is, I think everybody has worked real hard. I mean, the whole issue of, are we looking to blame? No. I mean, we are all in this together. And frankly, the bulk of the people I think in this room are probably teachers. I mean, you're having more interactions with these kids than certainly I as a board member and you guys as an administrator team. We have challenges with some of these kids. We discussed in our meeting with the city when we were sort of going over safety plans. We have some, and I don't want to pick on sixth graders, but it just so that happened to be the example that was given to us. We have some that you set an expectation, and the issue is, yeah, so expel me, I don't care. Just, I don't care, expel me. Okay? And then the issue here is you're looking at this sixth grader, and it's like you're not being rational. You have no idea the impact of what happens. You would not believe how many emails as a board member I got after that conversation from parents not saying expel the kid, but we need to have that kid, we need to embrace that kid. You can't expel this person. And I'm thinking of myself, having a child, that you maybe have this disruptor in a classroom, and it's like, no, you need to take that person out. So, you know, one of the 90% of, or plus, who really want to learn can learn. But what do you do? I mean, it's a no-win situation at times. And I wrote down perfect storm multiple times about losing the mod, not enough conference facilities. I mean, the issue here is, who would have thought that a Pop-Tart would have burnt in the middle of a cafeteria thing, and it would have been pouring down rain, and people are afraid to go out and get wet. Okay? And the disruption, a silly Pop-Tart. And then you have a lockdown situation, and then we as a school district worry about that. It's like, oh, our schools aren't safe. The next day, Beechwood had a lockdown, and they had to evacuate all their kids out of their middle schools and send them over to the high school. This is not a Cleveland Heights issue, guys. This is a community issue that we need to rise up and figure out. And again, we're all in this together. So how is we together as a team enable you guys? I mean, I remember a conversation I had with Dr. Dixon back in November when I think one of the first two parents contacted me and said, you know, we're really, I mean, we're sort of at wit's end. I mean, this is a new environment, and we're willing to give it a chance. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe we need to pull our kid, and this is really scary. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's scary. And then out of the same mouth and the voice you hear, oh, but they're having such a great time in Model UN, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And, I mean, there's plenty of successes. I mean, I don't want to, you know, focus too much on the negative, although that's, you know, why we're here and the room is so packed. But, I mean, we need to find a way. I mean, I don't know if a community forum is the right vehicle.
Well,
I mean, I
think until we hear from the community, we won't know. And you said, I'm so sorry for piling all those kids into Wiley. I kind of feel like I'm so sorry we're piling all you guys into this small room. And I'm sorry that this evening's structure is such that, as Jim said, that we don't have a hearing of the public. But so I guess I would be curious, you know, since a microphone is not available to them to use, if there were, what do you all think you'd be hearing tonight from the audience? Because they're not here by accident.
Well, first of all, anybody that wants to communicate to a board member, you communicate to the board member, okay? You don't wait for an open mic.
Right.
We do have open mics, and we may not right now, this very second. And I want people to have thoughtful, prepared, constructive comments, you know, things we could act on. Rants are okay if that's what you have to say. It's a public forum. Rant away, I suppose, but be constructive.
Sure.
Because that's what gets, I think, people's attention.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I think, but yeah, I mean, we hear things.
But I think it's important, though, that people understand the format of the meetings that we have, and this is a format that the board chose since I've been here. So we have one meeting a month, and we have our work sessions. And our work sessions are structured so that the board can take a deeper dive around issues. That's why we have them. So I believe that this format is appropriate for this discussion because it gives you the opportunity to hear from them about things that they've heard and things that we've shared. Because I've not shied away from, you know, expressing things that come to my office as a superintendent, but I believe that it starts with the building. And maybe because I was a former building principal. And then I think the conversation needs to happen at their school with their families and their teachers and with them leading. I think that's very important. And I think the next step is if anyone has concerns, again, they talk to the board members, they send you emails, they send me emails, they send them emails. But I think it's important for them to reach out not only to their staff through the various formats they have, but also to their kids. And I push them on this, and I know sometimes they're looking at me like, oh my gosh, the kids, but I think that's so important because I've always been kid-centered. I think the kids are going to be the ones that really change the narrative for us. And I think we have to allow our kids to get out in front. I even share with them, and I know this, I'm trying to figure out, guys, I didn't have my contacts in, so I'm putting my glasses and trying to read the signs. And I shared that I received a petition from 212 students and said, hey, why are these kids sending me this petition? I understand what they want, and they have already said, hey, speak to the kids, understand what the kids want, and not that we set up kids who are going to be these kids that are wayward kids that are going to do what they want to do. That's not what we want. We want our kids to be activists, but we also want to make sure that we are putting the bookends and reframing the experiences for them. So I'm pushing them to do more of that, and I know they are listening. But I think I agree the next step is a community meeting in their community with the families. I think the board, we have addressed the challenges and acknowledged them about that limited space, but just recognizing everyone that was, that was given to us in 2013-14. I believe we did the best execution that we could, and that's by saying that not only are we going to have two schools in this space together, but we're going to make sure these schools have
the academic program that all students could thrive to. It was an equity issue. Remember, at the time, we only had one school that was even an IB school. So that was the reason I moved Patrick from Roxborough to Monticello, so that when the students moved next door, at the very minimum, they would both be IB authorized schools. Yes, again, I still have some work to do. But I think this is a good start. So I think supporting, one, that we support an alternative program for our middle school students that we're going to start next year. That's a big step, and I'll come back to the board for a recommendation with that. Two, we can't get 2 more mods, so that won't happen. Those leases are up, and these leases on these 2 are going to be up in the following year, because in 2019, the schools will be moving to their new spaces. Recognizing that we did give them a dean of students. Jamie, raise your hand. Jamie is a dean of students. They have an extra counselor. We've given them a lot of additional support, but they have to make sure that the framework is set too. So they have to make sure that they're working with their teachers, with their students, to strengthen the plans that they have and make sure they're consistent with the message, consistent with discipline. That takes effort. It takes a collective effort of everyone. We recognize that. But I believe they understand the charge and your expectation as a board. And I agreed, if they have that community meeting, I think it would be appropriate for board members to attend. I think it's equally important that you attend and hear the voices. And I want to acknowledge the union piece, please. I don't know if Karen Ringo, is Karen here? Karen has been, I think, outstanding and big support. And so thank you, Ari, for allowing Karen to step up and lead the charge. When they have concerns, they come over. They send emails. The meeting that the team attended today was a concern that Karen and the team brought. And I think that's what we should. We shouldn't have an organization where people are not being heard. But understand it is frustrating when you have so many what it seems like competing interests. But Karen, thank you for your support and making sure that your voices are heard and that we're taking some action. And our team, I think, is listening and trying to make sure that we provide the supports too, but recognize that we do have more work that has to be done on our end as administrative team.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that we all have a great deal of work to do, and you know, the way that you sort of began, you know, that you approach this as, you know, from the history of a building level administrator, and as a guy who approaches this from a classroom teacher, you know, I have great faith in our administrative team district-wide, and I certainly have absolute faith in their representation and the collective bargaining agreement and the sanctity of that, indeed. But I'm also looking out in the room, and I'm seeing people who are not members of the teaching staff, and I'm seeing people who are parents, and we can have too many isolated conversations, you know, and I think that there is great potential from a broader conversation made up of, you know, with real structure, made up of people who represent lots of the different complementary portions of our school community, and that's why, you know, I really think that, you know, where everybody has a voice, and everybody can become part of a conversation instead of a witness to multiple conversations, and that's why personally I really think something along the lines of a town hall are you know, called for, and I think that it's something that needs to happen as soon as we possibly can, because we are at a heightened sense of sensitivity. We are in the final quarter of the first year, and so we want to finish this strong. We want to prepare for a wonderful next year for our students and everybody. And I just think that we need a venue and a method that everybody can participate.
Okay, agree.
Okay, so I think some of the feedback you're hearing is town hall meeting good.
Include the children.
Include the children.
I mean, we had
Yes.
some excellent children here today. And MSAN wants to get involved, is what I heard. I know student council wants to get involved. You have some great student groups. I'd like to see that. And I'd like to see that when you're giving the behavior expectations, that the tone isn't just, beating down on children, but it's uplifting and helping them want to be there. Because I think some of the things that are going on are, for whatever reason, they're from children who aren't enjoying school, and they're ruining it for the children who do enjoy school. And let's not let that happen. So let's find a way to make sure that students who are currently unengaged become engaged. It breaks my heart to hear that a student says, go ahead and expel me, I don't care.
Yeah.
In 6th grade. I mean, that's such a young age to be,
So thrown in the towel.
throwing away your future and thinking it doesn't matter.
Well, and this is where I sort of have to commend all staff members on not wanting to do that. I mean, there's a point where you have to, and I know it gets done, but trying to look after the best interest of a disenfranchised student, that's also part of our mission, okay? Just as well as trying to deal with some of these phenomenal MSAN kids that are, I mean, they're going to go to college. And, I mean, and I bet you they didn't think they were before they got involved in that program. And these are sort of like the great, I mean, you hear these great stories. Heard the wonderful things about Model UN. I mean, there's so many phenomenal things. All it takes is one crazy discipline-related incident that mirrors everything. And I know every district has to deal with it. Yeah. We're not alone. Okay, so town hall good. I also think from we as a board, we are passionate and very worried about this right now. Yeah. We're not educators. Well, sorry, Dan, you are.
You don't.
Yeah. Okay. So, but
we don't want a board full of educators.
Well, but that is not our role. Our role are community members that are sort of just looking at things from the big picture. We need some confidence. We need to see efforts that are changing as far as culture and climate. There's 5 of you here today. You guys can't change that. I mean, that gets changed everywhere. I mean, we go to lots of conferences, and we know it's not the principal that makes that change. Part of the change. I mean, I think you guys are sort of in a no-win situation. I mean, you're thrown in this building. You're dealing with a lot of issues. But I mean, we are together as a team have to figure this out. And I would love updates on a regular basis from our administrative team on where we're going to be. I also think there's a sense of urgency on this.
Yes.
This is not something that we can wait until this summer to get the next update. I mean, I'd like to have regular updates on this, on where we're at.
I get them daily.
Yeah.
I get them
You have a
daily
mole. Yeah.
from my own son who's there, so I agree. I mean, this is it's a high priority. It's a high priority for me. It's a high priority for the parents I speak with, so, I want to thank all the staff who are in the room thank you for what you do every single day, because I know it's not easy.
I think one of the things we need to work on is engaging our parents and our families. I think that's part of the problem.
It's important work.
And nobody thanked the 8th graders that are in the audience with signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Thanks for advocating.
I think we have a little 3rd grader down here who's supporting 3rd grader and a 1st grader.
I would be.
1st grader, just hold up your sign so they can see. They're like tired. Hers lights up too. Come on.
Their sister came here with a speech to talk about today. I was under the impression that, their cute little signs, they were going to be able to read some of the things that they put together with their requests. Hopefully maybe we can spend a minute or two and hear that?
They can come on the first meeting in April. And yes, and during that meeting is when they have, they can speak at that
I don't know how we got
meeting.
invited here today to hear them talk, but I haven't gotten some of the information about the conferences or some of the other information is, you know, we listened to all of this today, so communications with our parent group, especially as a parent with 4 children in the school system and the Cleveland Heights graduate, I definitely would expect to get more involved and, you know, see and celebrate our children who are doing positive. And, you know, I will be looking forward to hear that some of these recommendations came.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Does anybody have any closing comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll. Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Posh? Yes. Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Serena?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.